Hello and welcome everybody, I'm Bavarian and today I would like to talk about how to start out in Imperator Rome. It can be difficult understanding the basics of Imperator because the game requires you to think as a civilization rather than as a character like in CK3. It is quite simple to understand how your character would think, feel and act, in fact so much so that I still believe that all you need to start out in CK3 is my video about the mindset of CK3. Understanding what a nation needs, on the other hand, is quite a bit more abstract. Imperator is loaded with abstract game mechanics that will influence the lives of millions within your civilization. Nonetheless, the basics to start off a successful campaign can be explained rather quickly, and that is exactly what I'm going to do in this video. It is part of a new series in which I will showcase all the mechanics you need to know about by playing wonderful Carthage. All videos of this series can be watched individually just for their respective topics, but if you are completely new to Imperator, then I can recommend watching all of them. Everything in this video is relevant to small and large civilizations, but be aware that tribals and monarchies will play quite a bit differently. So they will also receive their own video on top of this series. What is important to me is that I will not tell you about specific modifiers and overpowered strategies in these guides, seeing as those numbers will change as patches come out. Instead, I would like to aid you in developing the right mindset that will enable you to make your way through Imperator Rome no matter what patch you are on. Today, we will focus on understanding what Imperator is all about and what basic things you need to be aware of when starting out. Now, let's jump in. The first few steps are of a bit of an administrative nature. You should be changing the tooltip lock settings to action lock. While this is a preference issue, I highly recommend giving yourself the control of when a tooltip locks by pressing the middle mouse button. By doing so, you don't need to ever wait for valuable information and can instead immediately hover over any additional topics that you would like to explore inside of the tooltip. On that note, I highly encourage you to always read further into tooltips because they can teach you about concepts that could be relevant to your situation without having to look up anything outside of the game. Additionally, I recommend adding several map modes to your map mode bar. Frankly, all of these map modes are absolutely excellent to understand what is going on in your realm and in others, in addition to the already existing map modes. Naval range shows you where your ships can safely operate. Territory ranks quickly let you view your important cities and metropolises. The Atlas map mode lets you show your realm off to your friends. The Population map mode lets you see which area are natural centers of your realm and potential city candidates. The Diplomacy map mode lets you quickly see friend and foe. The Government map mode gives you an overview of government types of all nations. The Region mode lets you see important loyalty, population and corruption statistics of governors of your and foreign nations. The Levy map mode lets you raise levies in provinces other than the regional capital. The Civilization mode lets you see which areas are worth taking or developing. And last but not least, the Holding map mode lets you see whether it's time to revoke or hand out some of the holdings in your realm. Now, with the administrative things out of the way, let's start out an explanatory playthrough with Carthage by bringing our house in order. A fundamental concept of Imperator Rome that must be understood is that there are three basic layers that define your civilization and are all interconnected. The state itself, how it is organized, who has power in it, and what it is focusing on at the very moment. The characters that lead your civilization. Their intentions, personalities, and skills should drive how you develop your civilization externally and internally. And finally, the population. Your lands are inhabited by many different peoples, most of which view your civilization ruling over them as an affront that they would like to remedy with revolt or simply by gaining more rights. Dealing with those peoples that make up your core citizenship and those that have no say in the inner works of the Republic at all is vital and will influence the future of your characters and your state. When playing Imperator Rome, it is good to keep all three layers in mind, as you will be able to see a red string that goes back and forth between all of them. Only if you keep this in mind will you be able to intuitively understand how things work together and what you might want to consider, no matter whether you have already seen this situation or not. Now, what will we do with Carthage? It is always good to know about the background of whatever nation you are playing. Historically speaking, Carthage's situation at the start date is precarious and uncertain. Just 4 years ago, the traitorous Bomilcar attempted a coup against the Carthaginian Republic after he willingly lost the Battle of Bitunis against the Syracusane tyrant Agathocles, in the hope of this threat motivating the Carthaginian parliament to grant him the powers of a tyrant. His coup was stopped, he was crucified, and Agathocles was thrown out of Africa once more, but it seems as though the Punic Republic may be on its last leg. While the Adyrum, the Senate of Carthage, holds a large amount of power, the so-called 104 are consolidating theirs. Originally, the 104 were designed as a constitutional council to keep other powers of the Republic in check, but many of them are eyeing an oligarchic takeover that could change the face of the Republic forever. The council, the Adyrum and Agathocles will play a role in your way forward if you want to lead Carthage to glory. Let's take a look at the very first steps that you need to take when starting out in a new campaign with this Carthaginian example. First off, you should check out the missions of your nation to see where you could take your nations with these guided storytelling tools. Some nations have generic trees, while other nations have highly specific and historically inspired trees. Generic trees will have two general types: conquering a region and building up a region. Rome and Carthage, on the other hand, come with rather large trees, and in Carthage's case, you are left with a variety of activities. Pearl of Africa lets you build up the very center of your civilization, preparing it for long-term growth, more income, and generally speaking, more wealth. An end to Sicilian warfare deals with taking revenge upon Agathocles by toppling his rule in the eastern part of the island. Securing Sicily would guarantee you control of the very center of the Mediterranean Sea. On the other hand, Aftermath of the Revolution seeks to end the civil unrest inside of your republic. Carthage begins as an aristocratic republic, but you could transition it towards an oligarchic or even a plutocratic republic. The struggle between the rich families of the 104 and democracy itself is fought right here. And then the Aegis of Africa, on the other hand, deals with the pacification of the Berber tribes in North Africa, seeking to establish a safe region around your beautiful city of Carthage. When choosing a mission tree, you should weigh your options carefully, considering what your civilization is, who leads it, and what is best for you. While I do desire to eventually end the internal strife and destroy Agathocles, the Republic is still reeling, and I will instead decide to first secure our home from potential Berber raids. Once our home is safe, we can look across the sea to foreign shores yet again. Another good idea would be to deal with the aftermath of the revolution, but I would rather have some time pass, so that I can choose it once I understand where my characters are taking this republic. Are we going to become more democratic or more oligarchic? Now that we have selected a mission tree, we should also take a look at the ideas of our government. Every government form favors a different leaning. If you perfectly match your government's idea set, you get a specific bonus. In Carthage's case, the concentration of power of the old families has led us into an aristocratic republic. I will be choosing ideas that match what I believe will be relevant for us. With the future surely leading us to war, I will be going for a lower shipbuilding cost, more morale for our troops, and more loyalty of generals and admirals. Of course, historically speaking, those admirals and generals are at the moment still being supervised by the Council of the 104, so this is very much in line with roleplay. It will be beneficial for you to also inspect a country's heritage. This heritage gives you natural bonuses that you should consider when evaluating your government form and its ideas. For example, we are outstanding traders, and playing as such would benefit us greatly. Transitioning to a plutocratic republic could benefit us, as the civic idea set gives various bonuses to trade and development, so your wealth of the country. However, that is all still far away, so let's stick with the aristocratic republic for now. Next up, go into your character screen and bookmark all of the leftmost characters of each family. These are the family heads of the great and powerful families of the Republic, and they are essential to keeping your realm stable, seeing as they have the largest power base inside of your realm. The concept of power base describes how much influence they have that they could mobilize against the Republic if they so desired, and it rises with a family's strength, loyal troops, wealth, and government positions. If a certain percentage of your country's total power base is disloyal, they will plot behind your back to utterly crush the old order. Keeping them happy by bribing them, making them your friends, by giving them free hands, by granting them stipends, by giving their family offices, or by giving them holdings will keep them from rebellion. Or if you want to, you could also alienate those families that have garnered your ire instead, by revoking their holdings, by imposing sanctions for corruption, by assassinating them, by not giving them any offices and therefore no income, or by bringing them to trial and crushing them. Proscription is the most beautiful and most terrible tool at your disposal. It is an act of tyranny, but it does disown an entire family and destroys their status as a great family. As you play, you will notice certain long-term effects. It will happen that a family that you have placated for a long time will have an immense amount of wealth that may come back to bite you in your behind should they ever decide that the Republic is not in their best interest. Sometimes, even long-standing leaders of the Republic can become your enemies. Do not be afraid to take radical measures if you believe them to be necessary, but always consider your options carefully should one of the family leaders become disloyal. For example, if the disloyal family leader is 67 years old and slowly withering away, just wait him out. He's going to pass away eventually. On the other hand, sometimes it is better to grant a young and competent family head free hands if you otherwise might face a rebellion. A corrupt leader can be better for you and your country than a leader willing to take the lives of a fellow citizen. You will oftentimes see a notification of someone or another being disloyal, but usually you don't have to freak out. What matters here is that the people with a high power base don't get disloyal and band together against the order that you bring to their country. A character with zero power base can be as disloyal as they desire to be. Don't listen to them. Nobody else is listening to them either. Additionally, go into your government screen and bookmark all party leaders. While these can and oftentimes are the same as the family leaders, sometimes they are not, and it is good to still keep track of them. You can now see all of them in the outliner together with whatever they are doing at the time. It is unlikely that you will want to interfere with their actions most of the time, but sometimes characters will hire private armies, assassinate their rivals, or wrestle holdings from one another. You can quickly see here which families are growing powerful, maybe even too powerful. Next up, go back to the government screen and check out the goals of your parties. Republics have a game mechanic that requires you to have parliamentary approval for most actions that you take, or your decisions will simply be impossible, or at least collect a huge amount of tyranny. It only makes sense, let's be honest. If you don't have Senate approval, you would have many that are in disagreement with the way you govern, incurring tyranny. Now, don't get me wrong here, when in doubt, taking some tyranny isn't too bad. Tyranny's effects are both positive and negative, and sometimes, if you want to become a dictatorship for example, it can even help you a lot, but for most of the game you want to stay relatively low on the tyranny score. This will require you to take decisions with at least 60% approval of the parliament. Every legislative period, each party will have goals. If you help them achieve those, you gain their approval and votes for future decisions. Sometimes the governing party, if you have more than 50% approval at the moment, will try to pressure you to push through their goal. It is important that you evaluate in the moment whether you as a roleplay character want to lose their support or whether you simply want to pass whatever they desire. Next, we reach the topic of inventions. Every tech level you advance further gives you one additional invention that you can spend in any tech tree, no matter where the advancement was. It is important that you at least check up on all tech trees and get a basic understanding of what they do when you start the game. Since I want to play Carthage as a trade-heavy nation that utilizes a great number of vassals, I will invest 3 points into the part of the tree favoring this approach and put the rest into other trees that I may want to explore later, like navies, slave efficiency, and general pop happiness. While you absolutely can rush specific innovations, like the one that allows you to have multiple legions, you will be missing out on others, so make sure you think it through. If you happen to see any innovations that you like but have not reached yet, you can also simply mark them with a planning tool to find them faster later. Now, let's quickly talk about what I consider to be the weakest parts of Imperator Rome at the moment that you nonetheless do not want to forget about: economy and trade. As far as the economy is concerned, there are very few things that must be said about it. Keep the expenses for forts, navies and armies on the lowest level unless you expect a war or find yourself at war suddenly. The income side of things is a bit more complex, as it isn't just earn more or less by selecting different dots, but instead can give you different bonuses like additional trade routes in your capital or more income from import or export. You will have to make the decision of what you want the most dynamically. If you conquer much of Iberia, for example, many nations will desire to import your precious metals. Losing the extra trade route could totally be worth additional income from exports. Now this of course brings us to trade itself. Trade as it stands does its job, but it is no secret that a rework would serve it well. For the moment, especially if you are a new player, I recommend automating all trade requests, blocking requests that would take away your capital surplus, and then automating trade route imports in all parts of your realm, except in your capital and any province that you take special interest in. For example, I will absolutely take trade control in what will become my main Iberian city once I conquer it, Carthago Nova. On the other hand, your capital trade is incredibly important and you should stay on top of it, since a surplus, so a +1 of a trade good in this province, will give you a hefty nationwide modifier. I would advise you to take a moment to inspect which trade good gives you which bonus, and then go ahead and choose what you think is beneficial. There are no choices here that are true or false for all situations, so it is up to you to decide what you really care for. Now, when you do trade, most of the time, especially at the start, you will trade with another nation instead of internally. Be warned that if said nation loses the territory holding the good that you are trading for, your trade route will cease to exist. If you really like certain trade goods, consider taking territory that holds them yourself or by vassalizing nations that have it, so that you can then permanently trade for it without any risk. That is of course what primarily motivated expansion back in the day. And last but not least in this video, let's take a very swift look at religion in Imperator Rome. Every nation worships one official pantheon. For the moment, simply check out which deity's omen you like the most and activate it. Religion is incredible in Imperator and will basically get its own video, so let's stick to simply choosing whatever you like best to start out with. In this case, I know that we will be fighting the Berbers soon, and I want to lose as few people as possible, so I will be taking the discipline buff that comes with Tanit's Omen. Now, all important things before we unpause the game have been taken care of, and we established that state, characters, and population are our main concerns in Imperator. In the next video, I will be talking about early warfare, province governance, and take a deep dive into population as we set out to pacify the Berber tribes. Thank you for watching. Let me know about any questions you may have in the comments and I will implement them into future videos. If you are interested in Paradox games, you can buy those in my store on Nexus. The link is in the description. I get a share of the price for no further cost to you, so you can support the channel and play games. And with all that being said, I would like to thank you for tuning in today and hopefully for tuning in the upcoming videos. I would like to thank the members of the channel, namely the Barons, the Counts and the Dukes. You are all absolutely gorgeous and I will see all of you later. Alligator.